Good day to all. Global Weekly News, serial number 2. Comrades and friends, last week I started a new serial, Global Weekly News. This is serial number 2. We will see some of the most important news around the world this week. The first one is NATO Summit at Madrid. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, was founded in 1949 with 12 nations as members. NATO was founded to oppose Soviet Union and spread of socialism when there was a Cold War between United States and Soviet Union. Now NATO has 30 members. After the end of the Cold War, after the collapse of Soviet Union, 14 countries joined NATO. The eastward expansion of NATO was seen as a direct threat to the security of Russia. NATO was involved in the wars in Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Libya, and many other countries in defense of the interests of USA and its allies. NATO was a partner in United States-led war in Iraq also. NATO summit recently took place in Madrid, the capital of Spain, on June 28 to 30. On 26th June, about 30,000 youth demonstrated in the streets of Madrid with the banners, "No to NATO, no to war, yes to peace." They raised slogans demanding withdrawal of US military bases in Spain. Youth wing of the Spain Communist Party and the youth of World Democratic Youth Federation took part in the demonstration. The government of Spain, fearing further protests, banned demonstrations up to June 29th. On June 24-25, a peace summit was also held by the same youth organizations. The summit declared NATO's role from Yugoslavia to Afghanistan was destructive. NATO is a threat to world peace. NATO is violating United Nations Charter. NATO is intensifying new Cold War against China and Russia. NATO shall be dissolved. In London and other European cities also, there were demonstrations against NATO at the time of NATO summit. US dominates NATO. The peace summit also declared NATO acts against global progressive governments throughout the global south and encouraging a global arms race which goes against the real needs of the people like education, health, housing, social security, and effective energy policy, etc. NATO's share in world total military expenditure is 57%. NATO has a combined military budget of over $1 trillion, that is 1 lakh crores, that is 79 lakh crores rupees. NATO encourages all its members to spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense as accepted in its summit meeting in 2014. NATO summit discussed on the Ukrainian war and the new applications for NATO membership by Finland and Sweden. The summit's declaration is in the public domain. Though Ukraine is not a member of NATO, its President Zelensky also attended the summit. The United States has already pledged billions of dollars of weapon supplies to Ukraine. United States and NATO are in a proxy war against Russia. In 5 of the NATO member states, United States nuclear weapons are stationed. From United States military bases near Poland and Romania, United States can launch its nuclear missiles. After the collapse of Soviet Union, Warsaw Pact was dissolved. Consequently, NATO also should have been dissolved. Instead, even far off Colombia was admitted as a NATO member. Australia, United Kingdom, and United States, the three countries formed a new military security pact called AUKUS. America, India, Japan, and Australia, these quadrilateral countries, they have formed one military cooperation agreement alliance called the Quad. US military bases are located in more than 800 places around the globe. The imperialist countries are bothered only about the interests of their military industrial complex. Therefore, the basic needs of the humanity are being neglected. NATO says it's a defensive organization. On the contrary, it is an offensive organization taking offensive against many underdeveloped countries. The second news item, massacre of African refugees. Comrades, there are two port cities, Melilla and Saida in Morocco, in northern Africa, which are still under the domination and control of Spain. In the NATO summit, Spain demanded protectorate status for these two cities. The demand was accepted by NATO. Many African states, including Morocco, have not recognized Spain's domination over these two port cities. After Spain approved Morocco's occupation of Western Sahara, relations between Spain and Morocco got strengthened. Morocco helped Spain in preventing refugees to migrate to Spain. In the joint actions of these two countries, many refugees were killed. Up to 37 people might have been killed. United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, he said that this is the highest recorded number of deaths in a single incident over many years of migrants attempting to cross from Morocco to Europe via the Spanish-occupied Melilla and Saida. While traveling in the boats, many of the boats capsized and many died in the Mediterranean Sea. African Union and many human rights groups of Spain and Morocco have demanded investigation on the massacre of African refugees. People from war and conflict affected Sudan, Chad, and Niger, they are not allowed to migrate now. But Spain welcomes 124,000 Ukrainian refugees into Spain. Well, this is pure racism. Yes to white refugees and no to African black refugees. The third item, the massacre of Latin American refugees. US President Joe Biden has been following the same disastrous anti-refugee policies as those of ex-President Donald Trump. The migrant refugees to US are forced to take dangerous routes. 53 Latin American migrants died after being abandoned in a tractor trailer on the side of a remote road in the city of San Antonio in the state of Texas, US. The authorities discovered the trailer on 27th June. 46 people were already found dead, and 16 others, including 4 children, were barely conscious. They were taken to hospitals, where after 3 days, 7 more died. 40 of the victims are male and 13 are female. The patients severely dehydrated, and there were no signs of water in the trailer track. The truck's driver, a Texas native, and 2 Mexican nationals were taken into custody. The tragic event is considered to be the worst disaster involving migrants who have died attempting to cross the United States border from Mexico in recent decades. In 2017, 10 people suffocated to death in a trailer. In 2003 as well, 19 migrants were found dead in a truck in the same city. Mexican foreign minister lamented the horrific human tragedy. He felt sorry for the tragedy. Mexico President Lopez Obrador would meet Joe Biden on 12th July to discuss the issue of migration. Of the 53 dead, 27 are from Mexico, 14 are from Honduras, 7 from Guatemala, and 2 from Salvador. Every year, thousands of Central American states migrate to US through dangerous routes. This migration is due to the prevailing extreme poverty, unemployment, etc. in Central American countries. Due to COVID-19, the migration has further increased. New economic policies dictated by IMF and supported by US and coups, coups, that is dissolving a government through illicit means. Coups supported by US, they cause increased migration. US Vice President Kamala Harris, when she visited Guatemala, he asked the people not to migrate to US. Though progressive governments are there in both Honduras and Mexico, it will take some more time for their progressive policies to get implemented and to give further positive results. The rightist forces under the previous far-right governments looted the natural resources and agricultural lands. Many people lost their livelihood due to exploitation and plunder by the multinational corporations and started migrating to US. The government of US shall treat the migrants in a humane way and take steps for their proper resettlement. This is as per the international norms. Comrades, the fourth item today we are going to look at Honduras. 13 years ago, in 2009, the democratically elected government led by Manuel Zelaya in Honduras was overthrown by a coup by conservatives with US support. Before the coup took place, Honduras signed an economic cooperation agreement with Venezuela. People of Honduras demonstrated in the streets against the coup. There was a heavy repression on them by the government. Many got killed. Many people of Honduras took asylum in US. The new dictatorial rightist government enacted laws against the rights of women. Many agreements with multinational corporations were signed. Special economic zones were set up and many concessions were given to the foreign investors. Thousands of people lost their lands. Inequality, violence, and extreme poverty were on the rise. 70% of Honduras people were in poverty. Well, in 2021 elections, the progressive leftist candidate, Comrade Xiomara Castro, she won the elections. She established democratic rights. She boycotted the Summit of the Americas convened by Joe Biden. Mexico's Lopez Obrador and many others also boycotted the US convened summit. After 2009 coup, Berta Cáceres emerged as an important leader of the social movements. She fought against privatization and eviction of the indigenous people from their lands. She also fought against racism, patriarchy, and capitalism. While she was on a struggle against a hydroelectric project, she was killed in 2016. She was murdered. Under Xiomara Castro government, the court convicted 8 people for this murder. One of the convicts, David Castillo, ex-US military intelligence officer, he was given a 22.5 years imprisonment by a court. The fifth item, arrest of Teesta Setalvad in India. The journalist and a human rights activist Teesta Setalvad was arrested on 25th June. The charges were forgery and criminal conspiracy. Her arrest was made on the basis of an FIR, First Information Report, that alleges that she urged on witnesses and fabricated materials produced on the anti-Muslim pogrom that took place in Gujarat in 2002. Pogrom means the destruction of a particular race by killing en masse. That is pogrom. Tista Setalvad is being held alongside two former government IPS officials who worked with her to collect and disseminate information on the pogroms. They are R.B. Sirikumar and Sanjeev Bhatt. The FIR was framed after the Indian Supreme Court called upon Tista Setalvad to be investigated for her role in trying to fight for justice for the survivors and the victims of the violence. A human rights defender sits in a prison cell in Ahmedabad, while those who authored the violence, who actually carried out the violence, are in a position of power. What a tragedy. Tista Setalvad spent the last 20 years fighting for justice for the victims of the 2002 Gujarat anti-Muslim riots. The riot was triggered after a fire broke out in a train at the Godhra railway station on 27th February 2002, killing 59 people, including Hindu religious volunteers returning from Ayodhya, where Hindu right wing had been waging a campaign to build a Ram temple at the site of the Babri Mosque after demolishing it in 1992. In 2002, Narendra Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Modi said that the above incident was a pre-planned, inhuman, collective, violent act of terrorism. Many rightist forces abused the Muslims as the culprits. Then the pogrom occurred in which more than 2,000 people, mostly Muslims, were killed. On 28th February 2002, a Hindu extremist mob of 20,000 people ransacked Gulbarg Housing Society, a Muslim-dominated place. 69 people, including Ehsan Jafri, a trade union leader and one of the leaders of the Congress party, were killed in the violence. Many were still missing. Jafri made several calls to authorities, including Chief Minister Modi, to ask for help during the attacks, but no use. In 2006, Jafri's wife, Jakia, filed a complaint against 63 people, including Modi. The second petitioner in the case was Tista Setalvad, Secretary of Citizens for Justice and Peace. In 2008, the Supreme Court appointed a Special Investigation Team, SIT, to look into the violence. The SIT filed its closure report in February 2012, stating that there was no prosecutable evidence against Modi and other senior government officials. In 2013, Jakia Jafri filed a petition in the Metropolitan Magistrates Court seeking a rejection of Special Investigation Team report's conclusion. The petition was rejected in December and then again by the Gujarat High Court in 2017. Jakia Jafri moved the Supreme Court in September 2018, seeking to challenge the High Court verdict. On 24th June 2022, this year, the Supreme Court dismissed Jakia Jafri's plea and upheld Special Investigation Team's conclusion. The Supreme Court chided those who had kept the butt boiling in response to the demands for investigation. The three-judge bench also stated that as a matter of fact, all those involved in such abuse of powers need to be in the dock and proceeded with in accordance with the law. Therefore, the arrest took place. The arrest of Tista Setalvad, R.B. Sirikumar and Sanjeev Bhatt has sparked widespread condemnation both within India and abroad. Amnesty International's India office also condemned the actions of the Indian authorities as a direct reprisal against those who dared to question their human rights records. Another instance, Muhammad Jubair, another Indian journalist, was also arrested. He tweeted a screenshot of 1983 cinema with a joke in 2018. His tweet was released in 2018. Somebody filed a complaint that this tweet is against religious sentiments or feelings. Therefore, Jubair also got arrested. If such incidents continue, press freedom will be affected to such an extent in India that no genuine truth will come out. And finally, the sixth last item of this week, victory of Ecuador strike. The national strike in Ecuador, the South American country near Colombia, the national strike in Ecuador, which has been going on from 13th June, ended after 18 days of strike. After an agreement was reached between the government and the key organizations began the strike. Massive protests and roadblocks across the country were organized by indigenous, peasant and Afro-descendant organizations at the time of the strikes. The indigenous leader Leonidas Isa said in a protest meeting that the Ecuadorian government is not serving the interests of the poor people. In the last tax year alone, the Ecuador government gave a 4.5 billion, that is $450 crore tax cut for the richest people. A 90-day window has been given to the government to comply with the agreement. As per the agreement, fuel prices were reduced and there will be more fund allocation to education, etc. Therefore, the 18-day-old strike by the Ecuadorian people is a great victory to the working class all over the world. Working class can never be defeated. Ultimately, the world belongs to the working and toiling masses. Up, up socialism. Up, up socialist revolution. Down with capitalism. Thank you.